Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Councillor Susie Horton. I'm the Cabinet Member for Children, Families and Education, and this is the Children, Families and Education Decision meeting. The meeting is webcast to allow the public to attend remotely if they so wish. The public viewing area is not in view of the camera, but actually there's no one there. A bit of housekeeping. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room by the stairwells. Don't use the lifts. Assemble in front of Queen Victoria's statue because the ice rink is gone. And if you signed in, do sign out. As I said, the meeting's been being live streamed. Everyone speaking will be on camera. Please use the microphones. Remember to switch them off when you've finished. So we'll do introductions. So we'll start at this end.
Alison Edgerton, Group Accountant for Children's, Families and Education.
Angela Mann, Finance Manager for Children, Families and Education.
Sarah Daly, Director of Children, Families and Education.
Karen Martin from Democratic Services.
And Sarah Daly and I are going to be competing for the sympathy vote with our ill-sounding voices. I think she's winning, actually. Anyway, so that's everyone in the room at the moment. Apologies for absence have been received by Councillor Chris Dyke and Councillor Ryan Brent, which only leaves me as the only member to declare an interest, and I am Vice Chair Governors at Craneswater Junior School. There's no deputation, so we'll just go on to the one agenda item paper in this meeting, which is school funding arrangements 2024-25. Usual thing, you can assume that I've read it, but for the benefit of anyone watching, just to highlight the highlights of what is a really complicated kind of piece of financial what's the word that I want? Financial wizardry? No, financial work. I know it's really complicated, and even for people who understand it and have been doing it for a long time, it is quite difficult to convey that. So just, yes, to give the highlights would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So this follows the report last month detailing the school funding arrangements that we've got so far for 24-25. Attached, one of the appendices is all the values that we're suggesting we're going to submit to the Department for Education for funding our schools. The report also mentions the values that we've calculated that would be sustainable for growth funding, which is an increase for both primary and secondary, and was in line with the feedback that we got from Schools Forum. There's also a request to approve the carry forward for the school-specific contingency. So that's for schools that have got a specific issue unforeseen that they haven't been able to budget for. So there's been no request again this year, but it needs to be carried forward to next year. So that's in the recommendations. There's the figure for the school improvement monitoring and brokerage grant for the primary schools, that's the same figure of £10.42 for each primary pupil. The report also details our centrally held budgets and goes into the details of where we're expecting increases. And I suppose the only other thing is that at the end of the school's budget process, we found that we had slightly more money given to us than what we needed to distribute in all the different formulas, so we slightly increased the lump sum. Finally we have laid out the places for the high needs, but the rest of the information on the high needs budget will be coming next month, because we're still working through all that detail.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been doing this for long enough now to realise that the high need vote comes a little bit later, but we need to get this through so that schools get their money, basically. So thank you for all your work on this, I know, and also the government kind of making a little bit of a an error themselves, and changing things put more pressure on reworking it all out. So thank you very much for your hard work on it. You need the recommendations, and I will read them just so it's really, really clear what we are approving in this particular paper. So approving the proposed changes to the mainstream schools revenue funding arrangements in section 5 appendix 2. Approving the school revenue funding pro forma appendix 3. This is a submission to the ESFA, which has to be done by the 22nd of January. Approving the use of the carry forward on the school's specific contingency for the same purpose as 24-25. That's set out in section 6. Endorsing the de-delegated unit values in relation to the school improvement monitoring and brokerage grant of £10.42 for each primary pupil. Approve the budget to be held centrally for the payment of central licences negotiated nationally for all schools by the Secretary of State. Endorsing the use of the 23-24 underspend on the growth fund for use for the same purpose in 24-25. Endorsing the growth fund and the proposed increase to the lump sum payments for primary and secondary schools, specifically primary 138,300 and secondary 173,130. Is that right? No. Endorsing the budgets to be held centrally, specifically as set out in Appendix 1, Schools Forum, admissions, duties retained by the local authority for all schools and centrally employed teachers' pay and pensions grants. And finally, approving the place numbers for special schools, inclusion centres and alternative provision settings as set out in Section 9 and Appendix 4 of the report. So thank you so much for explaining the bits that you did, Angela, and thank you for your work on this. And I guess now it's a message off to the ESFA now that I've approved it. So thank you very much. And that brings us to the end